Always a pleasure having my next guest on the show. It's Westin Wilson, who will be back in the UFC octagon at UFC Vegas 84 on January the 13th when he faces Gabriel Santos. Westin, how you doing?
Ryan, I'm doing great. Doing fantastic.
Do you have a nice Thanksgiving, you and the family?
I did. My sister came in town, and then we had, my wife and kids, and my parents live next door to me. So we all had Thanksgiving with my parents. So it was good and not dieting yet. So I got to enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, that's got to be nice. Your fight is still kind of a ways out, so you could probably get to eat what you wanted to. So, what is the go-to typically for you on Thanksgiving? What do you like to indulge in?
So I'm not a big Thanksgiving food person, but I do like steak. So I always, for the last couple of years, I've always gone out and bought like a really fancy either tomahawk steak or something like really really fancy, and I cook that. My wife and kids and my parents, like, they still do a turkey, but I always have some sort of um beef option available on Thanksgiving as well. And then my other thing I like to do is like really gourmet extravagant mac and cheese.
Ooh, that you're speaking to
Yeah.
me right there. The
Yeah.
steak and the mac and cheese. But you don't like turkey at all? Like that's not something that you normally would eat?
Mm-mm. No, I mean, I don't eat it on the regular. Like, I'll do a turkey sandwich every now and again, but actually I don't know, like Thanksgiving turkey is just so dry and
Yeah.
uh it's grainy. Like, just the meat itself is grainy. Like, I don't care how it's cooked. Like, I've had people who are excellent chefs cook things like turkey, and I just still don't. I don't like the texture of the meat.
Okay. Yeah, it's not your thing. When you're in camp, how often can you eat steak? How often do you eat steak?
I'll eat steak like almost every day.
Really?
Yeah, so I work with Tyler Minton, and we had discussions on it, and he was like, "Yeah, man, you can eat steak all the way up to, right before your weight cut." So I'll eat red meat pretty much close to all the way up until like I cut off, for weight cut.
I can't remember if you've mentioned this to me in our interviews in the past, but what is the one food that you really like that you have to stay away from and fight camp?
Oh man. There's a couple. There's a couple. So I'm a big candy person. So I sneak in like little cheap candies here and there, like little Sour Patch Kids, usually pretty good calorie wise. The Nerds Rope are pretty good calorie wise. But yeah, I'm a big candy person. I also indulge in some soft drinks, so Dr. Pepper and things like that. And energy drinks, but I pretty much I've cut all that out. I cut, like, caffeinated beverages are usually like the first thing to go for me. Um, or I should say sugary caffeinated beverages are the first thing to go for me. Um, and then chocolates and stuff. Like, so 4 weeks out, like I'll have given up like my sugary sweet candies and things like that. My other like my other go-to is probably pizza.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, pizza, I could eat pizza every day. Pizza and steak and mac and cheese every day. Like, I could eat those three
Yeah.
things every day. But I usually mac and cheese and pizza go away, but I do keep steak the whole time.
Yeah. Pizza. I mean, I always joke I should have been a Ninja Turtle because I just love pizza. I could eat it all the time, every day. I'd blow right up though if I did. So now it's like a cheat meal every, couple, 3 weeks. Once I've been good for a while, then I'll eat like a whole pizza to myself.
I'm such a nerd. When the Ninja Turtles came out with the pizza brand that you could buy at the store, I freaking bought every single flavor that they came out with.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they I don't know, like, you could get them at Walmart, like, but it's a Ninja Turtle brand of take and bake pizza. And yeah, I they had a mac and cheese one, they had a pepperoni, they had a supreme, they had a cheese. I tried them all. They weren't bad. Like, what was cool is the bottom, like the crust was turtle shell. Is like
That's
shaped like,
hysterical.
it had the turtle shell imprints and stuff.
I'm gonna have to look into that. See if that's still a thing. Who is your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Oh man, Michelangelo.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid and I played like the Sega game, Leonardo was always the one I'd play with. The one with the swords. So
Yeah.
Leonardo, like he was the guy. I felt like he was the strongest, and so I'd always like play with him in the fighting games that we had for the Sega. Um, but yeah, I think personality wise, Michelangelo is probably my favorite.
And me too. I'm a big Michelangelo guy. This conversation, you reminded me of something that I wanted to ask you. So we'll transition to that question here because there's still plenty I want to talk to you about here today. Are you going to be coming out to a Willy Wonka themed song for this
Yeah.
upcoming fight?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but yeah, so I've always thought it'd be so cool to do Pure Imagination, but like the Gene Wilder version. But the problem is that song's like super long and kind of slow, but like there's some good beats and lyrics to it. Uh so I did a documentary with this musician um named Andrew. So his Brothers Oliver is his band, and he wanted to see what it's like to be a pro fighter. So we put him through a fight camp, and then at the very end, I surprised him and had him fight Wonder Boy, and it was hysterical. It was so fun, but he was like so like enthusiastic about the whole entire fight scene. He's like, yeah, man, anything you want. I was like, well, so how good are you at like remixing songs? And he's like, oh, it's like I do it on my free time. He's like, I love it. And so I gave him the idea and I was like, I want this done and I want it to be like more like a dubstep, like hip hop vibes. Um, but then there's like one specific drum like beat that I put from an anime. I was like, but I want this one drum beat, and dude, he did everything I wanted and made it super cool. So I'm stoked to walk out to it.
So is this going to like amp you up? Is this the kind of music that really gets your juices going here?
So it's funny. I actually don't listen to music before my fight. So when I'm warming up, I don't listen to music anymore. Like I used to early days in my MMA career, but like for the last like 3-4 years, I just quit listening to music and I'm more just chit chatting and making jokes with the team and stuff in the back. And so I don't listen to music anymore. And so music doesn't like amp me up to fight. But I think like the walkout's always like cool and just the walkout in general. Like when they call my name, like I'm usually tunnel vision and I don't hear much of my walkout music anyways. But I think it'd be really cool. Plus, Willy Wonka, Westin Wilson, like we both W names. Um, and I've always just liked the character of Willy Wonka. Like he's just a free spirited guy who had a dream and went and fulfilled his dream. And I feel kind of close to that.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, we're excited to see you back in the octagon. Let's talk about your first walk to the octagon, shall we? Obviously, short notice fight. You're taking on a really tough opponent in Joe Anderson Brito. Didn't go your way, but it's not like you didn't have any moments in there. There was a time where you did look like maybe you could maybe potentially get a sub. What? Just run me through everything now, man. Looking back at it now.
I think I'm the first person to ever get TKO'd from holding on to a knee bar. Now it was good, um like it I think I psyched myself out in the moment. Like it was a lot of like emotions coming in, like not just like, oh, I finally made it, I'm here, and this is everything I'm dreaming of, but like it was also like, oh man, Brito's a killer. This guy's a savage. He's been destroying everybody. um and so I got like really timid in the cage and didn't really implement my game until we got to the ground. Then I was able to start implementing my game. But the sheer fact that I was able to implement that much and had him on the ropes with my grappling, and then seeing what he did to Jonathan Pierce, like it was a big confidence booster for me. And it's like, I on 9 days I was able to kind of push this kid and put him into some scary moments for him. What can I do with 10 weeks?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the look now, is like, what can I do with 10 weeks and somebody who's also kind of new in their UFC career. So I'm really looking forward to the Gabriel Santos fight. Um,
And this is your
because
longest camp, right?
kind of this is my longest camp by far.
Okay. That's got to be nice, man.
Normally like 4 or 5 weeks. That's what I prefer, is 4 or 5 weeks of training. But I did take some time off, let some injuries heal. And so having 10 weeks to prepare has been kind of awesome as well.
You hear fighters talk about, the octagon jitters, when you fight in the UFC, the biggest organization in the world for the first time, it feels different. You feel that, the eyeballs of the world watching you. What was it like for you? Like, did you feel that?
So I didn't feel that. Like that wasn't the part where it's like, oh, I've got all this, like it's different now. Like it wasn't like that for me. And I think for some people it's like that because like they stake everything on their fight career financially. But because I don't stake anything on my fight career financially, like I don't think I had those jitters. I think for me it was there's a couple like really negative articles that people shared about me that came out, and so that really messed with my head. There was a lot of like people just talking a lot of crap that really messed with me. And luckily, like I had great people, my team, my corner, my family, that were like, hey, just ignore it. Like this is your time. This is about you. Like don't worry about like what all these haters are saying. But that was the one thing that really shocked me more than anything. And I think that let me really like get in my head, and kind of like create this imposter syndrome. Like, do I really deserve to be here? Like, why, so like I wasn't nervous about fighting in the cage. And like once the fight started, I actually felt pretty good. I was shocked well, I wasn't shocked. I knew how hard Brito hit, but it was that was one part I was like, oh dang, he hits really really hard. um but yeah, other than that, like I don't think I felt like any jitters. I think it was more of like I was surprised at how much hate I got when I got signed.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It still blows my mind, the MMA. I don't want to say like the MMA community as a whole, because there are a lot of great fans out there that are like good people and just love the sport and don't, throw hate and get on Twitter and say all this nasty stuff. But man, I see it so much. And that's the thing that I like the least about the MMA community is the people that want to get on there and just try and drag fighters down, or talk junk or whatnot. And honestly, I was talking to Cody Brundage about this the other day, about like just staying positive and not letting outside, noise affect you. But all these people that are talking bad and saying negative things, they wish they were in your shoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was the hardest thing. And like it was funny because I was talking to Chris Curtis, and I were good buddies. And so like he was there for Sean Strickland, and we got to talking about it. And he was like, dude, just ignore it. He's like you're gonna like stay off of social media now. And it's funny, like I used to be, before I got signed to UFC, like I was a fan. I would watch fights, I would study fights and everything else. And now that like I got signed, I quit watching fights. I quit keeping up with the media, because you're right. Like there's a lot of good, and there's a lot of great journalists and stuff like that, that really mean well in the sport, and they really do a really good job at not being biased, not spreading filth. But then you get a lot of keyboard warriors or wannabe journalists, and all they do is they just stir contention and put all this hate. And it's like the UFC is like, MMA is a sport. Like back when I first started training in 2006, was like so counterculture, and like you would never do this. And we've come such a long way to get into the mainstream, but we still have that. Like the one thing I think holding us back as a sport and as a community is the fact that we've got, and it's the fight business, I get it, but like let the fighter stir the contention amongst themselves. Like the people who are just like sabotaging one fighter is pretty bad. Like it's sad. Like I see it like with Wonder Boy. I see people put out hate stuff with him. I've seen it with myself. Like like every fighter, I think they've got somebody that's like put out some article that's like negative towards them. And it's just sad like that we can't like
Mm.
respect each other for having the courage to get in there and put your health and everything on the line.
Yeah, no, very well said. Who knows? Maybe one day down the line, things will change. I'm not holding my breath. It seems like that's the world we're living in right now, unfortunately. But just like in a nutshell, when you look at the UFC debut that you had and just the way that it ended and everything, you take a lot of positives from that, right? So you feel confident, and what you did on short notice against a tough opponent, moving into this next fight against another tough opponent.
Yeah, Santos super tough, super well rounded. I think there's not a lot of weaknesses in his game. Um, and I mean he was LFA world champ and things like that. His short notice debut against Lauren Murphy, he did a phenomenal job there. Then he ran into a complete wrecking ball in
Mm.
David Onama.
Yeah.
Um, I'm interested to see his mindset going into this third fight on his contract. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited for it. Like I think he's somebody who he will stand and strike. He'll also engage in the grappling. I'm somebody who will stand and strike. I usually don't engage in grappling unless I feel like I need to. So I anticipate that we'll have a really good striking battle and a stand-up fight most of the fight
Mhm.
is what I'm hoping. We'll see though. I try not to dictate. Like in my mind, as a fighter, like I'm not somebody who dictates where the fight goes. I'm just like, okay, I want the fight. Like this is what I'm gonna do if the fight is here. This is what I'm gonna do if the fight is there, and that's it. Like that's like as far in advance as I think. So I know what I want to do if we're on the feet. I know what I'm gonna do if we're on the ground. And that's like literally as far as I think. But I want one of those memorable fights where it's like, okay, this is a fight of the year candidate. That's what I want. So hopefully I can do my part and deliver, and he'll do his part and deliver, and we can just put on that entertainment value, regardless of the result. Like it doesn't matter who wins or loses that fight. Like everybody wins. Like the fans win, we win, like everybody wins. That's the type of fight I want.
Well, hopefully that's what you get, and definitely can't wait to see you back in there. And I do understand that there's some congratulations in order because Coach T gave you your black belt fairly recently, right? So tell me
Yeah.
what that was like, and what that's done for your confidence as you've been in camp here for your second UFC fight.
So I actually got my black belt in May. And it's in actually it's right here. Tetsu Shinryu karate. So it's more of an MMA based karate. So it's not, the traditional Kempo. I am working on my Kempo black belt as well, which I think Wonder Boy just got his seventh degree. Uh yeah, it's crazy. It's like 35 years worth of Kempo karate.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, at 40, almost 41, he still moves like he's 25. Yeah. So it was awesome and it was really cool to get that under Coach T. And just be able to kind of be another, example to my kids of like different accomplishments that, you know, I was able to achieve, and hopefully it inspires my kids to achieve their goals and the things that they want to do.
Very cool. Well, congrats. I saw that on your Instagram, so I just wanted to mention that to you. As far as camp goes, I mean, there's still a lot of time left, so you have a lot of work left to put in. Is there anything specific that you're going to be training that you would not normally train for this upcoming fight? Or is this pretty much like you got your normal guys around you? You're going to be doing the same stuff you normally do to get ready for like any other kind of fight?
The only thing I'm doing different right now is Steven and I are working on NMF stuff, So so we've been just joking around, playing around as both our fight camps about like all right, high-fiving them when you spar, and like when you drop somebody, like helping them back up to their feet, stuff like that. So like it's just we've just been having fun, making a joke of I should say joke, but just kind of playing around with that. But there's really nothing different that I take it back. I actually started having Tony, Wonder Boy's little brother, Tony, work more with me. So he's been doing a lot of my pads, holding mitts, and kind of game planning. Because he's a really like he's the opposite of kind of Coach T in the fact that he's more soft spoken and a little bit more, like let's take a softer approach, not a softer approach, a more I don't know the right word, but more of methodical approach
Yeah.
of like,
Okay.
okay, let's we don't have to be like super amped up. And so I really like that because it between him and Coach T, they kind of like it's a nice middle. And then I still have Steve Davini, and then grappling a ton with my teammate Gino Morelli, Penn State All-American, phenomenal fighter himself, and phenomenal grappler. So I have a great team. Other like that's the only change though I think is just working more with Tony and getting Tony more involved with preparation.
Okay. I like it. Is Coach T like a drill sergeant? Is he like yelling at you like you're gonna do this, that, and hit
Yeah.
his okay.
Um, he definitely has some. He's like the softest guy off of the mat, but then on the mat, it's like, well, I shouldn't say he's like the softest guy. He'll probably murder me for saying that, but he like really isn't like. He's not the type of guy like he puts off this hard exterior and everything, but then like he's super nice and I know like if I ever needed something, like he would be the first one to help out. Um, and so like it's nice. Like it's a good relationship. Like we have a very close, almost father son esque relationship, even though I'm not his son by blood. But that's kind of the relationship that Coach T and I've had, and we corner a lot. Like I help corner a lot of our amateurs, and so we've traveled all around the southeast together. And so we've spent over the last 4 years a ton of time in hotel rooms and everything else, and just getting to talk and chit chat and getting to know each other outside of just fighter coach relationship.
Mhm. Yeah, I
And
actually got to interview Coach T once way back in the day before I even started doing video interviews, and he couldn't have been any nicer. Super nice guy. So, yeah, that was a pleasure to get to talk to him, a legend really in the sport. Let's talk a little bit about Wonder Boy, shall we? Because he's got a pretty big fight taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. Are you going to be cornering him? Are you going to be traveling to Vegas for that?
so I'll be in Vegas, but I'm usually never in the corner. And Steven's got bad luck as a corner. He was in Chris's corner. Chris broke his leg. The only time he ever cornered me is my first knockout loss, and I broke my leg. So Steven it's bad luck in the corner. But he's probably one of the best guys in the room. Like you can pick his brain, you can be like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And that's the type of person Steven is. This camp, I think, has been super awesome. We've had a ton of fun. Um, and I've had a ton of fun kind of mimicking Rachmanov. And so that's another thing different. Like I've been doing a lot of orthodox fighting, um, a lot. And so there's been some fun little things that I've learned and picked up just in trying to mimic Shavkat style. And I'm excited for that fight. I think that could be fight of the year potential.
Yeah, and Wonder Boy, he's obviously we know just how darn good he is on the feet. I mean, he's world class. Rachmanov, this is a guy like in his prime. Wonder Boy's 40. Do you feel like Rachmanov is going to try and close the distance, pressure him, and turn this into like a real gritty dog fight? Because I can't imagine like standing on the outside and just, let's kickbox with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That's the best idea.
I think Rachmanov's gonna try. If you look at his fights, um, he's been somebody who so his first three fights I think were in the Apex, so they were in the smaller cage, and then his Jeff Neal fight was in the bigger cage, and he struggled against Neal
Mm.
because Neal had a little bit more room to move, and so for Rachmanov to get him to the cage was a little bit harder. So I think it'll be similar experience with Wonder Boy. I think it'll be a little bit harder in the bigger cage, so I think that plays to Wonder Boy's strength. But at the same time, Rachmanov's clinch work is very, very good. And like it's not like Rachmanov has anything that's super flashy and crazy. Like it's just he's very good at wearing you down in the clinch. And if he takes you down, like it's not like heavy wrestling, it's more of like clinch wrestling where he uses a lot of trips and foot sweeps. But then on top, he's very good. He's got super phenomenal top pressure that just chips away, chips away. And I think that's just his thing is he chips away at people and gets them tired to where he then either finds the knockout or finds the choke. With Wonder Boy though, like the guy's been doing 5-round fights for the
Yeah.
majority of his career. So doing a 3-round fight is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to be a little bit harder to like chip away at that cardio.
Yeah, that's a great analysis. So do you think that Wonder Boy wins a decision here?
Yeah, I think Wonder Boy squeaks away with a decision win in this one. I know that a lot of people are probably a lot of the haters are gonna send me some more hate on that one,
Yeah.
but no, I think Wonder Boy does it with a decision.
Yeah, of course, he's your guy. You're not going to pick Rachmanov to win. Come on,
No,
anyone, no one can give you crap about that for sure.
I will be blacklisted from the gym. No, I mean, I've trained with Wonder Boy for 5 years now, and the dude is like, he still evolves. Like his game isn't like there's just little minute things that he's still adding into his game. That's just crazy, and his ability to learn new stuff is like up here where everybody takes them a while. Like we're all here and learning new things. Steven can learn new skills like at that level. Like he's just crazy at how quickly he can learn and master skills.
Hmm.
Weidman was the same, like grappling with Weidman was the same way. Like I'd show him a move once and then he would be like, oh, I'm stealing that. And he would never even drill it and he'd just hit it in live like it was nothing. Yeah, I mean, both of those guys are crazy at their ability to just learn new techniques.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine what it's like to be there in person and see them, pick things up so fast. Give me your predictions on the main and co-main of UFC 296. Leon Colby and Pantoja Royval. Who do you see winning those title fights?
Mm, I think I'm gonna start with Pantoja. I think wins that one. Um, but the flyweights, I feel like the flyweights is hard to like say because anything can happen with those guys. Like they just
Yeah.
all move so fast and crazy. But I like Royval's a dog, but he can get sloppy. Pantoja looked really, really good against Moreno.
Mm.
Really good. So I'm gonna go with Pantoja. With Colby Leon, I think Colby takes it.
You think he's just going to pressure wrestle him and just make it a dogfight?
Yeah, I think Colby can take it. I mean Colby is basically like Usman, and Usman was winning the first fight. I think Usman went into the second fight too soon. Um, but you have a fresh Colby. I think a fresh Colby is like equivalent to Usman before the knockout.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say Colby wins it.
Okay.
Plus it's American soil, and I
Yeah.
think yeah, I'm gonna say Colby wins it.
All right, fair enough. America. Let's transition to your fight. UFC Vegas 84, January the 13th. You're in the Apex. And again, Gabriel Santos, the UFC is giving you another tough opponent. We've seen him fight in the UFC twice now. You've already talked a little bit about, what you saw. Obviously, he lost to Onama and then he went the distance with Murphy. What are we going to see here in this fight, Weston? And you said you want to see, fight of the night. You guys push one another and go the distance. But when you just look at it, with his style versus what you bring to the table, do you feel like stylistically there's a certain area where you're just going to be able to kind of get the better of him and get a win here?
I think on the outside I can really pepper him. I'm 6'1". I've got a long reach. And I know he likes to fight in the pocket. So I think the fact that I am long and I have pretty decent movement, I can just stay and pot shot out and around the perimeter of the cage. I think if we end up grappling, I don't know. I haven't seen a ton of his grappling ability. I know he's pretty decent, but I think my grappling's super tricky. So if we grapple, I think I can finish him from my back or on top. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to try to stay kind of on the perimeter and pot shot until I can land a big shot.
Do you feel you get him out of there, or do you think a decision is your prediction?
Man, I don't know. I've got 100% finish rate. I either get finished or I'm getting the finish, but I wouldn't mind going the distance. I'm just gonna push. I'm gonna push for the finish, but we'll see. He's a tough kid, so
What?
he's really tough. But he did just get a. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't want to make a prediction
Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
publicly.
totally understood. Understood.
I'm just shooting for a fight of the night. That's what I want.
All right.
I want an exciting Max Holloway-esque fight.
Oh, I love that. What would it mean to you, Weston, to get the first official win of your UFC career? Like, can you kind of put that in terms of everything you've accomplished in your life? Like, where would that rank?
Mm, I used to like I used to really rate, the wins as like accomplishments. And then I heard a really good TED talk about, like it's more about the journey. And how when we put too much emphasis on like the end result, like once it comes and goes, you're kind of like, oh, just another day passed. And I kind of experienced that, like making it to the UFC. It was like, okay, it came and went, and life moved on, and nothing really changed. So for me, it's more about the like I've been really finding love in the process and the journey, and not so much the end result. And I've had talks with other fighters about it. Like one of my biggest issues in the past is like I just love to win. I didn't necessarily love to fight, and so over the last several years, like it's really been discovering that love to fight and just be in there and fight week. Like I was leaving I teach a noon jujitsu class, and as I was leaving, I was like, man, I'm really excited to like go through the process of the weight cut and fight week. And like I think it was one of the first times that I was really just like, I'm just excited about the whole process. Like I'm just excited to get in there and fight and not necessarily worry about the end result. But a win, I mean, I would be ecstatic for a day or two, and then it's I got to go back to work and everything else. So but no, I wouldn't be fantastic, and it'd be something really cool to have that footage for my kids to be like, yeah, he won in the UFC. He didn't just make it, like
Right.
he did it as well.
Last question for me. This year's almost gone and over with. We were talking about this before we went live here. So 2024 right around the corner, and you'll be having the second fight of your UFC career in early 2024. What are your goals for next year? Is professionally, when you look at what it is that you're hoping to accomplish, have you even thought about that?
Yeah, next year I would like to fight 3 or 4 more times next year. So starting out in January, I want to stay a little bit more active than I got to be this year. So definitely want to be more active. I wouldn't mind fighting like in a bigger arena. So definitely a win January would hopefully set me up to fight in one of the arena shows. And so that my wife and my kids and my mom and dad can actually like come and watch me fight in person. So that's really important to me and one of my big goals. I also wouldn't mind fighting internationally. It's always been a goal. I started in Brazil, so I'd love to be able to fight internationally as well. Um, but I'm not gonna put like a goal on like I want to be top 15 or anything like that. Not at this point. I think financially, like I would like to just make as much money as I can through fighting, just because it'd be cool.
Yeah.
So I could do a lot more with that. I usually I use that for like vacation. So we already have. I promised my kids we'd do a really cool vacation after this fight. So we're gonna do a really cool vacation.
Do you know
And
where
so
you're gonna go?
so we were looking at Hawaii, but I'm not settled on it. Like what we're gonna do is I'll have each one of my kids, me and my wife will each put a destination in a cup, and each person will draw out until we get the last place, and that'll be the place we go. So
Okay.
we'll see. We'll see what it is.
Very cool.
Um,
I like it.
but I know my middle child, the last time we did it was Hawaii, and we didn't get to go yet. So that is supposed to be our epic vacation.
Well, I know there are a few fighters from Hawaii on the UFC roster. Maybe you can talk to someone and they can give you some tips of where to go. I can't remember who it was now that I interviewed a while back, but they were giving me a whole bunch of ideas in Hawaii of where to go, where to stay away from. So I've always wanted to go to Hawaii too, man. It just looks absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. I've been once when I was a kid, but I haven't been back since. So I one of my like childhood mentors, he has a house in Oahu, and so um I know he told me I could stay there. It's like an Airbnb,
Oh,
so
nice.
I could stay there in Oahu, but I also wouldn't mind doing Maui.
You could stay that Airbnb if it gives you a deal. You could pocket some of that money and save that for a future trip.
Yeah, yeah, that's the whole thing.
There you go. Well, Weston, as always, man, I really great interview. Appreciate your time. Looking forward to seeing you back in action again, January the 13th, UFC Vegas 84. Before we do sign off here today, I want to give you the floor. If there's anyone you want to thank, anything you want to plug, the floor is yours.
Yeah. First off, Upstate Karate been phenomenal. Coach T, Tony, Wonder Boy, Davini, Gino, like all the people I work with. My strength and conditioning coach, Josh Reynolds, fantastic. Next, Built Bar's been awesome, supported me a ton. Also a BYU BYU alumni based company. There in Provo. If you haven't had a Built Bar, try them. They are phenomenal. And I hate protein bars. These ones I eat because they taste like candy. Um, Speaking of the thing I give up, Built Bar been my good substitute. Anyways, yeah, those are my big ones, and you can follow me on Instagram at Westin Wilson, spelled like the hotel, WSTIN.